Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into the fascinating world of high security locks. And look, this isn't just about simple keys and pins. What we're really talking about is a technological arms race, a constant battle of wits between the engineers designing these amazing things and the community of people who see them as the ultimate puzzle. It's this incredible cat and mouse game played with microscopic precision, and it all starts with one tiny, unavoidable mistake. So let's get right into it.
So you gotta wonder, right? What's the real difference between, say, a cheap padlock you buy anywhere and a super expensive high security lock? I mean, they both have pins, they both use keys, but the difference? Oh man, it's a story of pure deception, some incredible engineering, and this constant fight against one single fundamental flaw. And that's exactly the question we're gonna unlock today.
Okay, so to really get how these locks are made to be so incredibly tough, we have to start with a bit of a paradox. We need to understand the one secret that actually makes picking them even possible in the first place. Yeah, you heard that right. Every single mechanical lock out there, I don't care how much it costs or how fancy it is, they all share one tiny, unavoidable weakness.
And here it is. It's called the binding defect. Honestly, this is the master key to pretty much every lock on the planet. And it all comes down to a simple fact. Manufacturing is never, ever perfect. It's impossible. So because those little pin chambers aren't perfectly aligned, we're talking microscopic differences, when you put a little turning pressure on the lock, just one pin, just one, will get stuck or bind before all the others. That one single binding pin, that's the secret way in. So how do pickers use this? Well, it's actually a really methodical process. First, you apply just a tiny bit of turning pressure, what they call tension. Then you use your pick to feel for that one pin that's stuck, that's binding. Once you find it, you just gently push it up until you feel a little click as it sets right at the shear line. The tension you're holding keeps that pin in place, and then you just repeat the process. You hunt for the next binding pin, set it, and move on, one by one until, pop, the lock opens. Now, obviously, the lock companies knew all about this. And their big move, their first major counterattack, well, it wasn't to try and fix the binding defect. They can't. Instead, they decided to use it against the picker. They started designing pins that would basically lie to you, pins that would cheat and send all sorts of confusing feedback to the picker's tools.
Okay, let's meet the main troublemakers. You've got your standard pin, right? It feels smooth, nothing special. But then you have a spool pin. It's shaped like a little spool of thread, and when you're picking it, you get this big, satisfying click, and the lock even turns a little. You totally think you've set the pin. And don't even get me started on the serrated pin. That thing is just plain devious. It has all these little grooves, so it clicks over and over and over as you lift it. You have no idea which click is the right one. Each one of these is just a little trap, designed to make you mess up.
And this whole trick? It's got a name. A false set. It's a completely intentional illusion. When that spool pin catches and the core turns, your brain screams, "Success!" But you've just walked into a trap. A skilled picker has to learn what that false set feels like. They have to know to back off the tension just a tiny bit and gently, carefully push that spool past the edge, all without letting the other pins they've already set fall back down. It turns a simple task into this incredibly delicate dance.
So for a while, these tricky security pins were pretty effective. They stopped most people. But, the really dedicated pickers, they figured them out. They learned the feel. And that's when some lockmakers said, okay, that's it. Time to change the rules of the game entirely. They decided to add a whole new dimension to the puzzle. I love this quote from a hobbyist because it just perfectly sums up the feeling. Imagine you've finally gotten good at lifting pins up and down, and then you run into one of these locks. It's like, what the hell? It's not just up and down anymore. Now you have to rotate them too? It's just a massive, mind-bending jump in difficulty. The secret weapon here is something called a sidebar. The best way to think about it is like there's a second, hidden lock inside the main one. So now, to open it, lifting the pins to the right height is only half the battle. At the exact same time, you have to rotate every single one of those pins to just the right angle, Why? Because there are these little gates cut into the side of the pins, and only when they're all lined up perfectly can the sidebar fall into place and finally let the lock turn.
So think about it like this. A normal lock, that's a one-dimensional puzzle. It's just up and down. But a sidebar lock, that's two-dimensional. It's up and down and rotation. You're solving for two different things on every single pin simultaneously. The difficulty there doesn't just double, it goes up exponentially. It's a whole different level of challenge.
But this whole back and forth, this arms race, it doesn't just stop with clever mechanical tricks. Nope. The newest battleground is all about taking the human out of the equation and bringing in the machines. So now we're going to talk about robots and the incredibly high-stakes world of safecracking.
And this is where we start seeing things like robotic lock pickers and automatic safe dialers. But it brings up a really interesting question, right? Can a machine, a robot, ever truly replicate that subtle, intuitive feel that an expert human picker relies on to know what's going on inside a lock?
Well, for now at least, the answer is a pretty clear no. See, most of these picking robots, they don't feel their way through a lock like a person does. They just brute force it. They try thousands upon thousands of combinations. The really hard part isn't building the robot arm. The true challenge is designing sensors that can actually feel the tiny differences between a binding pin and a security pin's trap. That kind of perception, that's still a uniquely human skill.
So, okay, robots might struggle with feel, but where they absolutely excel is at brute force, just trying things over and over again without getting tired. And that exact principle is being used to tackle the ultimate challenge in physical security, cracking a safe. In this world, it's not about feeling tiny clicks anymore. It's all about perfect, relentless, machine-like precision. 1 million. That's roughly the number of combinations on a standard 3-wheel safe. Trying that by hand, forget it. But a robot can patiently try every single one. But here's the catch. It demands absolute, flawless precision. If that robot's dial slips by even a fraction of a millimeter, just once, the whole attempt is worthless. It has to go all the way back to the beginning and start over. It's a marathon of pure mechanical perfection, where one tiny error means you fail completely.
So when you step back and look at the big picture, you realize that physical security isn't some problem you can just solve. It's not a destination you arrive at. It's a process. It's this never-ending cycle of innovation. Then someone figures out a bypass. Then the next innovation comes along. It's been happening for centuries. And honestly, it's moving faster now than ever before.
You know, this whole race started with the simple pin tumbler lock, which had that one critical flaw, the binding defect. The lock makers fired back with things like security pins and sidebars to make it way harder. And now we're looking at the future, which is all about robotic pickers and digital keys, and that's a whole new can of worms. But what's really fascinating about all this is the relationship between the lock makers and the people trying to defeat them. You'd think they'd be enemies, but it's not always like that. The lock sport community, these are the hobbyists who do this for fun, as a puzzle. They're often the ones who find the weaknesses first. And then they'll actually go to the manufacturers and help them understand the vulnerabilities so they can make safer locks for everybody. It's this weirdly collaborative arms race. And all of this really leaves us with a huge, thought-provoking question, doesn't it? In a world where someone can copy your key just from a photo you post online, in a world with robots that will patiently try a million combinations, what does the word secure even mean anymore? The lock on your front door suddenly isn't just a piece of metal. It's just one piece in a much, much bigger and constantly changing puzzle. And that's about all we have time for today. I really hope you found this look inside the world of high-security locks as fascinating as I do. If you enjoyed this and want more deep dives into complex topics just like this one, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Thanks so much for watching.